All right. Well, welcome to the October version of Apex for Lunch. Today, we're going to talk about when a product dies. Uh, it's sad, but oh well, happens. So I thought that this would be an appropriate time because we're starting new models. If you're in the automotive world, your new models are out, and you're hitting that sweet spot where the development is started on next year's new model parts. Uh, if you're in electronics, you're looking to see where you can find your component parts and everything. So everybody's looking and working and busy, uh, and hoping that the containers are going to hit the docks and you're going to be able to provide uh, Christmas presents and stuff for everyone on your Christmas list. So we'll start where we always start here of late, the pandemic and how's it doing? Global infections have gone up to about 240 million people. Now that's reported, okay, and so you sort of have to understand that there are probably a lot of people that have had the virus, but it hasn't been reported. But worldwide, there have been 240 million cases. Uh, 4.9 million people have reportedly died from the virus. Uh, so uh, it's a significant uh, event. Here in the U.S., we've had 44.9 million people infected with 724,000 deaths. In Mexico, they're reporting 3.8 million infections and 284,000 deaths. In the U.S., there have been 407 million vaccinations given. So there are a lot of people that have had at least one shot, uh, or they've had two shots. Now they're getting their boosters. So that's going a long way towards slowing things down. If you've been staying in touch with what's going on here in the El Paso Juarez area, the border is opening up again. I think it's the 8th of November. They're going to allow free commerce back and forth, which is great news. But the our 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 ICUs here in El Paso were reporting high usage last month, but that's dropped off. Now, the reason they were having high usage was they were bringing people in from other parts of the state uh, to the ICUs here because we had people to staff the ICUs, and we weren't putting any demand on them. Uh, the the county judge and the mayors, both mayors, current and previous, have done just an outstanding job from my perspective in making sure the message got out and making sure that everyone is paying attention. And we've had vaccines. We've virtually anyone that wanted to get vaccinated got vaccinated, and it shows up in that we didn't have a huge number of people uh, get hit with the Delta virus and end up in the hospital. So that's good news. In the US, the New England states are leading. Uh, they they have they're reporting that they have about 87% of the people who are eligible for uh, for vaccinations have been vaccinated in the New England states. Now, Maine and Massachusetts and Connecticut are three of the top 10 states in the United States for vaccinations. New Hampshire and Rhode Island are lagging a little bit. Uh, my brother just refuses to get a shot. So what can I tell you? No, that's not the case. But yeah, my brother and my sisters live in New Hampshire, so I give them grief about not doing everything they could be doing to get vaccinated and get on. Uh, I thought I'd keep you up to date because we sort of walk away from uh, the the ship that was stuck um, in the canal. Uh, she's free, and I told you last month she was at in just outside of Shanghai. She got into the close anchorage at Qingdao, which was another port close to that. She moored for unload and reload on the 17th, and that means that she'll be ready to sail again on the 24th, which means the entire load, sail, deliver, return, unload, load again to make the next trip has taken right around 9 months. So it's sort of like having children, I guess, uh, but not the way you want to run a ship line. So, uh, and that whole thing has come up again. If you didn't, if you haven't turned on the TV news in the last few days, and you haven't read the papers or anything, President Biden met with the Port Authority leaders from Long Beach and LA and said, how can we fix this? What do we need to do? And they said, we're short truck drivers. Everybody expected, they were going to have a long song and dance. But basically, what they're saying is, with the additional capacity that they just turned on in Long Beach, um, Long Beach opened up another whole large ship unloading and loading facility. And with that additional capacity, they are no longer the constraint. Um,
Sí, sí, por favor, sí, gracias. Sí, va.
I, could you could you mute, please? Thank you. So uh, Long Beach and LA are no longer the constraint holding us back. It's now truck drivers. So that's not news. we, we've been short truck drivers since the beginning of the pandemic and probably before that. So where are we going to get more truck drivers? And that's an interesting question. If you are one of those people that has Sirius or XM radio uh, and you're listening on your car radio, you have no doubt heard at least 10 advertisements for truck companies that will pay you more, will let you be home on the weekends, uh, will feed your cat for you. They'll do whatever they have to do to get you to come drive their trucks. Uh, it is it is one of the areas in this sort of dystopia of open positions looking for people to fill them and people looking for open positions, and there seems to be no matching. Uh, we have millions of jobs open waiting to be filled, and we have millions of people looking for work, and they just don't seem to come together. Uh, Hopefully that will get resolved and we'll see more truck drivers and more trucks on the road and we can move through this. But right now, the government is saying that it's not going to even out until after the Chinese New Year, which is what we forecasted, I believe, 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. So it hasn't improved much. And the impacts are global. So we may be able to improve it in one location, but not other locations. So we have to continue to focus on this. This is going to continue to impact us. Uh, you, we have shortages in uh, ICs that everyone has known about for some time, but now we're starting to see other shortages of other materials, uh, and uh, they're they're on the water. and that's causing issues. Uh, the people that I've been talking to in Europe and Western Asia, they have the same problem. People in Africa are saying the same thing. So you're hearing the same stories wherever you listen. Uh, so Amazon, remember last time I mentioned that some of the retailers had gotten together and they were leasing their own ships and moving their own ships with their own product to try to find ports that weren't overloaded so that they could get their goods in for Christmas and get them on the shelves. Well, Amazon is feeling the pinch here because a lot of their materials come from China as well. And they they're waiting for different cargoes and they're not getting it quick enough. So they've gone out and looked into leasing high weight cargo planes. Uh, these are planes that are designed to be cargo planes. The Russians have built the largest one. It carries 250 tons of material, and they're out looking to lease those. Uh, Now, you might think that this is a little weird because um, it certainly can't be cheaper to fly, uh, even in a large weight cargo plane. It can't be cheaper to fly material than it is to put it in a container and send it by ship. But the problem is, this is stuff that they need. They're missing sales, and this is a way that they can work around that. It'll cut into their profit margins, but they'll still have the customer satisfaction, and the long-term impact of customer satisfaction outweighs the short-term cost of lower margins on particular goods. Now, they're they're not going to be flying uh, yeah, uh, toys for kids, that sort of thing. They're looking at where do we have commitments for materials that we need to deliver, and where how can we satisfy the most of those with the fewest number of flights. Now, to give you some idea, the largest plane carries 250 tons. The Ever Given, the ship that I keep tracking around the world, can carry up to 99,175 tons. So uh, it would take a whole lot of airplanes and a whole lot of flights just to make up for one Ever Given. And it's not the only ship out there. In that little visual that you see up at the top there, all those green dots are ships that are being tracked. You can see them in the Great Lakes. You can see them along the St. Lawrence Seaway. You can see them coming down the coast, the east coast of the U.S. There's all kinds of them in the Gulf and crowded around Florida. Uh, then you see them streaming up the west coast of Mexico and all the way up into Canada. So those are all ships, and if you want to have some fun, go online and you can watch the ships all over the all over the world in all of the oceans and seas and waterways. So uh, if you're tired of watching cat videos on TikTok, that might be something else to do. So what happens when a product dies? Um, we're seeing the marketing and Amazon working to keep from killing off customers from failure to serve. Uh, but what happens when a product dies? What happens when uh, we don't need it anymore? Uh, there's an old saying that buggy whip makers didn't go out of business because they made bad buggy whips. They went out of business because we didn't need buggy whips. We had horseless cars. So uh, in the changes of things, we tend to focus on new product introduction. Oh, marketing and engineering are coming out with this new thing, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be wonderful, and we're going to get it out there, and we're going to have it in the marketplace. And we're already talking. We've got our suppliers pretty much in line. We've got early orders out there so that they can start manufacturing. They're buying materials, and we get excited about that, as well we should. Um, we focus on planning and scheduling our current load and making sure that we don't drop the ball on those new products. But what we don't notice is the death of a product. Oh, if we're putting out a new product and that's going out to our number one customer, what happens to the product that is currently the number one product? Are they going to continue to buy that, or is this replacing that? Or is this new thing going to downgrade our top selling product, and all of a sudden now it's not as necessary and the demand is falling off? And this can become a long-term problem for us. You can see it goes from regular to slow moving to excess to obsolete. So when a product dies, the impact on us is we have to we have to be aware, we have to stay on top of it, and we have to manage it, or it becomes an anchor. So how did they die? Well, we lose the contract. Uh, there are two suppliers. We're both making the part, and uh, they make a better part, or they made a better presentation, and the the contract goes away, and we don't have that contract anymore. This is relatively common in the automotive supply chains. Uh, I was fortunate. I worked for a company that was taking contracts away from other suppliers. But the people in those other suppliers, uh, they were seeing their business erode because we were doing a better job. They were facing the fact that they were going to have products that die. Uh, there may be a final buyout of committed inventory if you bought based on uh, advanced requirements, and that's in your contract that you're allowed to do that. Then there'll be a final buyout of that, and they'll cover the cost. But what happens to the stuff that's on the shelf? If you don't ship it, what happens to it? Or the product's phased out of production. Uh, there may be aftermarket support orders, and there may be contractual inventory. With a lot of parts that we make, especially in the automotive industry, uh, they want us to keep uh, parts because we had the contract and we were making parts while it was in production. Now they want us to keep parts for their aftermarket so that the repair people can come to us and get the parts when they need to repair a unit that's out there. This also happens a lot in the white line products, refrigerators, washing machines, dryers, dishwashers. Uh, those companies, the Whirlpools and Maytags and all of those, they have the same kind of purchasing power, and they do the same thing. So we get we it gets phased out. It goes away. It's no longer being sold or actively consumed in the plants where they're making these, and all we have left is the aftermarket support orders and whatever contractual inventory they agreed to. So the volume then drops from millions to thousands to dozens. And we're sitting there and we've got inventory, and we're used to running minimum order quantities through production lines of 5,000, 10,000, whatever that number is. And all of a sudden, the demand has dried up, and there we sit. Or maybe it has a design flaw. It may be redesigned with some of the same components. It may be redesigned with many new components. It may be replaced by another part we make, and it may be replaced by another part we don't make. See lost contract. So this is how the products die. So how do we deal with it? How do we turn that around? And how do we make sure that that doesn't become an anchor? Current materials are no longer available. The new model doesn't use these parts. And we see this active, mature, limited, discontinued time line here where it goes from active to mature. Uh, we get the last time buy notification. Now we've got the last order date, the last shipment date, and we get end of life notification, and we get an end of life date, and we still have inventory, not just in the finished goods, but raw materials and subassemblies, other things. What do we do? Why is this important? It's important because it's excess and obsolete inventory. And there's a tool, a very good tool that can help us with the recognition and uh, can help us highlight the needs that we have in working toward reducing these things. According to Gartner Group, for those of you who don't know, Gartner is a high-end consulting company out of Connecticut. They've been around for years, and they are very innovative, and uh, they they do great work, and they are looked up to by almost everyone in industry. And they said in 2015, inventory quality ratio is an inventory performance measure that evaluates current inventory value against future demand in terms of usage value. In other words, inventory quality ratio is a good way to look at your inventory and see where you have risk. As you look forward into the future, where do you see the risk? And how are you going to manage that risk? Now, IQR, inventory quality ratio, is not a new thing. It's been around since, I want to say it was about 1992 or 1993 when it first splashed. But Apex never embraced it, and it was sort of a well kept uh, non secret. But uh, it never got a groundswell of acceptance, and maybe it was because people thought it was too cumbersome. Now, for those of you that are SAP users or Oracle users, you can go to the help on your SAP application, and you can look up IQR logic, and it will tell you how to set this up in your SAP environment. Uh, they have enabled it, and it's a part of the product that you purchase. Most people don't turn it on. But here's how it works. This is the logic tree, if you will. Uh, you have your MRP ERP system, and it runs, and the IQR logic does a data extract from that, and it looks to see where you have demand, where where you have uh, requirements for parts. And if you have requirements, then you move to the right side uh, under the E3 and E2, uh, and you have your ABCs, your typical ABC. It gives you the ranking of 80, 15, and 5, uh, looking at 4 weeks, 12 weeks, and 24 weeks of inventory. If if you uh, use that and you still have more available, then you get into excess, okay, and that becomes excess 2. Excess 3 is material that has requirements and is beyond each of those stages. So it's considered excess and it sits out there by itself. You go to the left to the 6 at 6 months. Uh, if you haven't got any requirements, but you've had recent usage being within the last 6 months, you've had usage of the part, then you fall into the D, E, and F category, which is the same as the A, B, C category, but now it's being done against something that doesn't have future requirements. Doesn't mean that it's obsolete. It basically slow moving inventory. So your inventory here then becomes excess. It's still active. It's still in an active form, but it's excess because there's no future requirement for it. We may need to keep it. We may get spot buys. This may be the inventory that we have for uh, parts and service parts, that kind of thing. So we get requirements, so it keeps it. It's not obsolete and it's not non-moving inventory. So we keep it in this little pile here. And then if we haven't seen any requirements for it for 12 months and we have no requirements and we've had no recent use, then it goes into categories G, H, and K. And G, H, and K are non-moving, slow-moving inventory that are basically going to get written off at some point in time because there is no there's no need for these materials. So by putting this together and turning this on in your system, you can take snapshots on a regular basis of where your inventory is and what comprises the A, B's, and C's, what comprises the D's, E's, and F's, and what comprises the G, H's, and K's. And then we can, as managers, sit down with our planners and with others and say, okay, where are we with this? We want to look at everything that's in excess, but still active. So that gives us excess one, excess two, and excess three. Now, everything that's already in non-moving, slow-moving inventory, we need to have a plan for each of those uh, on what we're going to do with it. Are we going to write it off? Do we get accounting to say, yes, we're going to write it off? Do we sell it for scrap? What are we going to do to get that off the books? The things that are slow moving still have, every now and then they have demand. We want to know how much is that demand and how are we going to deal with it? And we don't want to get into the position where it's going to move into the non-moving, slow moving. So we take action. And that brings us back to the stuff that we're running every day. Is we see demand starting to fall off, they should start to become excess too, where they're in excess of the limits that we put on the 4, the 12, and 24. So if they start to get there, then the question is, they're in excess. Why? And if it's a change in demand that's causing the excess, what do we need to do now? Because we're seeing the changes in demand. Let's chase that down, find out what's going on, and see if we can't get rid of some of the excess and get it back under control. So IQR works and helps us be more proactive in making sure that our inventory all has value in the future. So when your product dies, you can convert a usable, valuable asset into dead weight. Good planning and anticipation, good communication and attention to detail can keep you from having that anchor. So as we wrap up here, what would you like to discuss? What's causing you problems right now, your issues and concerns? Give us your ideas and we'll see if we can't talk about it. Uh, from August, we got these requirements. The only one we haven't talked about are plans from corporations, academia, and government to provide tech skills for their employees and future hires. We're working on that. We're doing some research. September, we talked about cyber risks and shortage and delay shipping. And then we got one idea already from the October participants on demand planning, what to do with it with all the supply constraints. Is it better to push out or keep it as a back order? And we'll talk about that next month. Thank you all for stopping by. I hope it's been worthwhile. If you've got something you want us to talk about, please put it in the chat. Let us know what it is. Send a note to me or send it to us, and we will get it out. We'll put it up. Our class schedule, we've got classes coming up in November and December. So if you're interested, you want to get certified, come and join us. We'd be more than happy to have you.
Thanks,
That's it for
Chet.
today. All right. Have a good week. Have a good month. And if you go trick or treating, wear a mask. Everybody knows. Enjoy.
Thank you, Chet. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you, Chet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Chet and Deanna.
Hey, Derek, how are you?
So far, so good. Thank you very much.
Good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing extremely well.
Good.
Keeping busy,
Oh, yeah.
staying off the streets. It's good.
You're not running up the mountains anymore then.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
When I said staying off the streets, I meant, down and dirty on the streets. I'm still using the streets to run on.
Okay.
My 75th birthday is coming up in about 6 weeks, and my plan is to run 6.2 miles on my 75th.
Wow.
I ran 13.1 on my 70th, so, but I'm not ready to run 13.1. I'm cutting back.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm planning on breaking 80 when I reach 80 in a couple of months.
All right. I'll be
I
there to
won't be
cheer you
running.
on. I'll be there to cheer you on.
Thank you.
Okay. And keep those cards and letters coming, Derek. They're great. I don't know who you're sending them from, but wow, you've hit some home runs here lately.
All sorts of strange people send me stuff, some of which is terrible, so I throw it away, but stuff that deserves a second look, I move on.
Yeah, yeah. It's good. It's good. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
To you
Bye,
as well.
Diana. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Susan, good to see you around. I came sliding in on this one, Deanna.
Yes, Chet. And if you help me,
Yeah.
you got the host control, and
Oh,
I
okay.
cannot stop the
The recording?
recording. If you
Okay.
help me, please.